It's time for Fridays with AI, where we ask AI to rewrite Philly sports history. Every Friday, only on This Day in Philly Sports History.
That's right. It is time for Fridays with AI. And of course, AI is going to show up when we're talking about the other AI, Allen Iverson. But Allen Iverson, during his time with the Sixers, never really had a Robin to his Batman. And I don't know, there's differing reports about whether this was because Allen Iverson couldn't play with someone or whether it was Larry Brown and the way he constructed the team, him and Billy King. Because if you think about the guys that they did try early in Iverson's career, they weren't necessarily star players. Looking at guys like Jerry Stackhouse, Larry Hughes, Tim Thomas, they were solid, but they weren't necessarily like superstar players like we saw during that time, like Kobe and Shaq, Michael and Scotty. They weren't that level of players. So not sure whether it was an Iverson thing, a Larry Brown thing, or a combination of the two. We just talked about the high point of the Iverson era was that Game 1 win against the Lakers in the finals. But I asked AI this week, what if AI was paired with another star? There were always rumors. They brought in Chris Webber late in his career. Glenn Robinson came in late in his career. They brought Derek Coleman back, but at that point, Derek Coleman was late in his career. But there were always rumors about trade. One that almost came to fruition was in 1999, though, and that was Tracy McGrady and a first-round pick coming to the Sixers for Larry Hughes. And at the last moment, Toronto backed out of that deal. But I asked AI, what if Allen Iverson had another star? And AI explored the possibility of the Tracy McGrady trade actually going through. They said it was the most feasible one that of all the rumors you heard back then, it was the most feasible one. So asked AI a couple questions about this. I said, could Allen Iverson and Tracy McGrady have coexisted in this scenario? And defensively, absolutely. They would have complemented each other because McGrady was more of the guy who had a quick step, could have recovered. He was taller, protected the rim more, and AI was more, or Iverson, don't want to confuse AI and Iverson here, but Iverson was more the risk taker, led to a lot of steals and things like that. And AI seems to think that Allen Iverson could have been a lot more aggressive, and it would have led to a lot more fast-paced, fast-break points because of those steals. Offensively, it could have been tough because both of them are alphas, but in order for this to work, one of them would have had to sacrifice points. Likely that would have been McGrady because he was a more versatile player and also wasn't as ego-driven as what AI was. And that's not a knock against AI. In order to be a superstar, you got to have that ego. But it was more likely that Tracy McGrady could have stepped back and been the second fiddle to AI. And truthfully, though, we never know what would have happened if AI did have a star. He did have some success out in Denver with Carmelo Anthony. So he was never really put in that position with the Sixers. So maybe AI would have adapted to it and been able to think. But in this scenario, artificial intelligence AI seems to think that it could have worked out at least for a small window of 3 to 5 years with McGrady and Iverson. So that led to the follow-up question then. What does it mean for each player's career trajectories? Well, for both of them, but specifically McGrady, it would have meant a lower per game average for points, assists, and all those other things. But not having to be the main guy would have helped some of his injury concerns, and he would have lasted longer in the league. His prime years would have been more productive and lasted longer. So his numbers overall would have been higher, even though his points per game would have been slightly lower, and it really changed the narrative of him as a player, as an injury-prone, what-if, unfulfilled expectations kind of guy. Playing with a star like Allen Iverson would have changed that whole perception of Tracy McGrady. Iverson, very similarly, his trajectory would have been, his numbers would have been slightly lower, still would have won some scoring titles, but wouldn't have been scoring almost 30 points, probably would have been in the 26 to 25, 26 range, which is still okay. but it would have taken less of a toll on his body because he would have had the Robin to kind of help pick up some of the slack. Both of them would have been surefire Hall of Famers like they were. McGrady was would have been more of a first ballot Hall of Famer in this scenario. So that led me to the third question. I said, okay, what does this mean for the Sixers team success then? They say very similar trajectory that what they went on. They needed that time to kind of play and learn each other and play together. During this series, though, against the Lakers, way more competitive, takes them to 7 games, and the Sixers actually pull off the win and win the NBA championship in 2001. The following year, it's a rematch, goes 7 games again. This time, it's the Lakers getting their revenge. Sixers would make it to 2 more Eastern Conference Finals, not being able to overcome running into those Detroit teams, but they were perennial Eastern Conference contenders, very similar to the Spurs run with Tim Duncan, where you can never count them out for not winning a championship, but they were able to get the one championship in this scenario. There also is no process due to the fact that they had more success. Players wanted to come and play for the Sixers. It was more, as AI put it, a softer landing. So there was no need for the big blow up and tanking and all of that other stuff. And they would have been able to kind of bounce back quicker, similar to kind of like the way the Heat have been doing more recent times. Could it have worked? I don't know. What do you think? I think AI put out a very compelling case that if the Sixers could have gotten their hands on Tracy McGrady, things would have played out very, very differently in Allen Iverson's career. Certainly changed the Sixers' fortune, changed Tracy McGrady's fortunes. But what do you think? Is this far-fetched? Hit me up on the Discord. The Back to the Future voice and text line, 267-495-8531. I would have loved it. I really think that this probably falls more on Larry Brown and Billy King for not really exploring getting guys. And Larry Brown has his philosophy where he wanted the defensive muckers and grinders. If you look at what he did when he won the championship with Detroit, they weren't a very flashy team. There wasn't a ton of stars on that team. They just had some very, very good players. Like Rip Hamilton was on that team. Ben Wallace was on that team. Rasheed Wallace was on that team. None of those guys were like 30 point per game scorers. So maybe bringing in a guy like McGrady to kind of go along with Iverson when he was younger would have changed sort of just AI's game in his career. I don't know, but let me know your thoughts on that one. This is just like last week. This is another intriguing run to me because it always killed me that there was never a sidekick for Allen Iverson, and they needed somebody that had more of an alpha mentality, and I think Tracy McGrady would have been the perfect fit. But let me know your thoughts on Tracy McGrady and Allen Iverson playing together.